everyone, and welcome to the Spirituality Talk Show. My name is Angie Romero, and I am here with a good friend, Layne Mills, and I will introduce you to her. But to be basic, we're just going to talk about the difference between religion and spirituality. Where do we come from? What could we know that's different? So I know that you're a wife and a mother to three young boys, which my hat's off to you. So you and your family are currently in the big island of Hawaii, and you're living off the grid that you built yourselves while you're looking forward to the next big adventure ahead. And that is absolutely amazing. You graduated from Colorado Mesa University with a bachelor's in art and music. And you've been studying various forms of spiritual practices, such as divination with tarot, palmistry, astrology, studying of the Akashic records, world religion and theology, all in past 20 years. After the birth of your third child, you began to pursue offering everything that you know professionally in 2020. I know that your passion is in guiding others, especially women and mothers, on a journey to their authentic selves and the magic that they hold inside to curate the life that is in full alignment with the way their souls are wired and designed. I don't know how else we could introduce you. That is all amazing. Do you want to tell us anything about, okay, first of all, how is it living in Hawaii?
Yeah, thank you. It's just been a personal journey for me from the very beginning. And I've always wanted to know more about, well, basically this topic, spirituality versus religion and what is going on. And I've always, on my personal time, that's what I read, that's what I researched. But it was that whole 2020 shift when I went from being the music teacher to not having any students. And I found that people online were asking questions and I knew some answers and I loved exploring it with them. And so it's been a really fun journey the last couple of years to embrace myself and have these conversations with people. I think it's time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of, okay, so looking at 2020, everybody can look at it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the people that I talk to, a lot of the people in my inner circle, a lot of the clients, just in general, people that even weren't into spirituality, something shifted in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I understand that, okay, besides everything that quote unquote really happened in the way that we view the world, I think a lot of people went through that inner shift. And that's kind of where this topic comes from. A lot of people started looking more into, let's call it mindset or spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
or, okay, I'm home. What do I do? I'm finally going to get time to meditate. I've been told to meditate, but what is this thing?
Yeah.
And a lot of people have had beautiful shifts in their world because of 2020 and everything that we lived through. Have you seen this as well?
Yeah, I think that it came to a point where who we were was stripped away. The hustle, the jobs, being forced to be relocated or homeschool or work from home. And our identity had been wrapped up in the hustle and what we had, been doing. And that all got stripped away. And so now we were left with this space and the bigger question, well, what am I going to do with myself? Who am I? How do I keep going from here and not fall into those pits? And even after you may have fallen into some kind of pit of who am I, then you start getting these kernels. It was like a catalyst to go, oh, these bigger questions about what am I doing here and what makes me happy? Where does happiness even come from? And finding that inside, it became an inside job instead of always reaching out because everything was shut off. You couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't see your family, and it was very tough. So you had to do the inner journey. And it was a great, when once embraced and worked through, it really did become something bigger than just COVID.
Right, right. So today I wanted to talk with you about, and you can share with us kind of a really big topic that a lot of maybe beginners come into because I'll put it this way. So we want to talk about religion versus spirituality. What's the difference? What's the similarity, etc. But I know a lot of people that have come into quote unquote the spirituality have been trained, have been taught, have grown up with a certain religion, whatever that religion that is for each of us. Can you explain to us what the difference, in your words, is the difference between religion and spirituality?
So I find that religion overall, as an umbrella, has more of a structure, and it's more linear in do these things, take these steps, and this will be your result. And it's like there's a goal at the end of it, right? Where spirituality is, like we were just saying, going inside and just exploring more free form in very abstract ways how it feels to exist as a human. The religion will come to you and say, I have the answer, this is how it is. And depending on which church or sect that you know kind of gravitate towards, they'll just give you the described solution.
Mhm.
And that isn't always correct for us. We're not cookie cutters. And every one of us is designed a little differently and a little more uniquely. And so spirituality encompasses that. And you can have your own path and course that's true for you,
Right.
that can expand on this whole, who am I? What am I doing here? Oh, I mean, what are we doing here? Are we really just here to get up, go to work, procreate, make money, eat, sleep? That's not satisfying for me. And I know it's not for a lot of people.
Right, right. And I think with me, one of the biggest differences is, for me, religion, we're told what to do, like you mentioned,
Mhm,
kind of like a formula. You do this and this, and this is the result. Where
mhm.
spirituality, it's so vague, and you have to go inside. There's no
Mhm.
formula for that exactly. And I think
No.
in my experience, I think a lot of people kind of shy away from that because they're like, I don't know what to do. Like, we've
Yeah.
always been told what to do.
Mhm.
So what about, for example, I believe, and I'm going to ask you if you believe the same thing. I believe in religion, we're told God's source, something bigger than us, is outside of us. And in
Yes.
spirituality, it's the inner knowing and inner training that we have to put our minds through, that no, it's actually inside of me. Do you agree, or do you
Mhm.
think differently?
I do. Religion has everything as an external.
Mhm.
It's outside of us. It's beyond our control. It's bigger than us. There's even so much as to say that we're actually very small and wrong. There's something inherently wrong with us,
Right.
first of all, and we need this external to tell us and guide us, to show us where to go, when spirituality is saying the answers are within you and you have that connection and you can find it yourself. um, I'll just go on to say, when I was really small, I had this moment. I was like 2 or 3 years old. And I remember sitting with the wildflowers up in the mountains. We were camping. And I looked at the flowers, and they were big. They were like right in front of me because I was so small. And I thought, I still remember, God is in the flowers. God is in everything. And I
Mhm.
was sitting there in awe, and I thought, no. And then it like reframed. God isn't just in the flowers and everything. God is all of it. It wouldn't exist without him. So then my next my thought was, well, then God's in me. And
Mm.
if it's true for the flowers, then I'm God stuff too. And so I felt like the rest of my life has been to prove that, by going to church and trying to find that thread. And then everyone told me, no, God is here and you're here. I was like, but it never resonated to follow these rules. And I tried so hard myself to follow all the rules. And it still wasn't like enough. It wasn't good enough. And I kept asking, why?
Right,
Why was I made to not be good enough?
right.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna start saying things that people might agree with and people might get upset. Either way, it's fine.
Yep.
Um, I think a lot of religions, okay, I honestly think the beginning of a certain, any religion, maybe the beginning or the basic principles all rely on some kind of truth.
Mhm.
I do understand that now, because for years I fought it. I now understand that there will be people that will be religious from the minute they were indoctrinated until the day they die. And if it works for them, that's perfect. I'm
Mhm.
not saying religion is bad, because everybody needs to have faith in something.
Mhm.
And I think spirituality is more in, okay, how about if you try having that faith in your own inner wisdom instead of looking
Mhm.
for it outside? But the
Mhm.
problem I see with a lot of religions is that somewhere along the line, they became too structured. They became too rigid on the rules, too rigid on
Mhm.
what can be done, what can be said. And if you say anything outside of it, it's blasphemy, it's a lie, it's the devil's work. It's, I mean, so many different variations that it's like, well, are you really serving the purpose you began with? You know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the way that I see that. But
Mhm.
okay, so let me ask you. So you were 2 years old.
Yeah.
Did it never go away? Did that inner knowing that God was in you, it never went away?
It never went away. And my family chose to start going to the Catholic Church, and I loved it. I was like, ah, tell me all about it. And I went to the catechism and I told Sister Kathleen, I want to know, like, what's the quickest way to God? Like, tell me, how do you do it? And this was one of my big crisis moments. She told me, because of the Catholic Church, my parents had both been married before they met each other. And
Mhm.
so I was a I am a bastard child of the church. And no matter what I did, if
Wow.
I wanted to become a nun, that's great. I was going to hell regardless. And I
Oh,
was only like 5 years old. And I asked her, I was like, why would God make me, knowing that in order to make me, my parents had to be married, divorced, find each other, have me, with all this love and wonder in my heart, predetermined to go to hell. Like, that didn't make sense. Why was I made with this longing to know something bigger than myself, and that be my, you know, that's it. And so that just really started me asking a lot of questions about their dogma. Why, it's just these big why questions.
right.
Why do I have such longing if that was my path? And I just no longer believe that the pre-described path that they gave me is correct.
Right. And I mean, you were 5 years old. How can somebody
Yeah.
tell a 5-year-old, regardless of what you do in life, you're going to go to hell? I mean, at least you
Mhm.
turned out pretty good, because I would have been like, hell, I'm going to hell anyways. Might as well go have fun with
Well, I rebelled. Yeah.
it.
My early 20s were great fun, learned a lot, but I still have this like biggerness. I even tried to go back. I tried to go back to a just a different Christian church because I was just like, I wanted to know. I kept trying and trying. And by that time, I found yoga and I loved it.
Mhm,
And they, at one point, asked me if I was a pagan for doing yoga and if I was praying to the right God.
mhm.
And I was like, there's only one God. Like,
Right,
I'm praying to who I'm praying to. And I
right,
know it without a shadow of a doubt. I've learned some things since then that I'm like, oh, well, I can see sometimes where their threads of fear may come from. But knowing in my core, when I do yoga, I'm not praying to a wrong God. There's
right,
one source creator,
right.
and that's it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny you mentioned that, because I grew up Catholic.
Oh,
They
you
raised
did?
me
Okay.
Catholic. Yeah, they raised me Catholic. I never, I, I don't even think when I was a child, I just went because I knew I had to go, but I never felt anything like at all. I was just like, okay, it's what we have to do.
Mhm.
Um, but when you speak now about the yoga, well, you just spoke of two different things. With the yoga, when I started doing yoga, some members in my family were like, are you, what was it that they were saying? Are you devoting yourself to one of the Indian gods? And I was like, what? Like, they're the ones that came up with that. I was like, what? And of course, me being a nerd that I am, I went and I started Googling and I'm like, oh, what are they talking about? And then I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh, the this, the this, the this. I was like, oh, thanks for that. You know, like it's a heads up. But it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're so worried about you following quote unquote their God, their wrong God, or somebody else's God. They're missing the point. And that's what I think religion does, unfortunately. And we're human. I'm not blaming this religion or that religion. We're all human. We all have the will to choose whatever we want to believe. But I think religion to nowadays has separated more people from God or from their inner knowing or from their potential than actually bringing them closer to what they're preaching.
Mhm.
Would you agree to
Well,
that?
and I think, yeah, I think if you go back and you look at the history of especially that religion, um, you find a thread of power and
Mhm,
control
mhm,
because they didn't want so many different ideas. And so they had their rules and it had to go through them. And they stripped away translations and languages people could read and write. And it had to go through the pastor, the priest to get their salvation. And it was a control. They wanted control, and it's fear-based.
right,
That's not God.
right.
God is love based, and it's love in a way our language doesn't even comprehend.
Mhm,
It's something entirely different. But what's being preached, what's being taught, and how they're still working their system is fear based, and that's a shame. That's very limiting. And yoga was banned because they could go do their yoga, go inside to find source through their own inner knowing,
mhm,
and that was outside of their control. So it was
right,
banned. And
yeah,
so it's more so than just stretching. It feels great,
mhm,
but it's really important to remember when you're doing yoga to have that momentary thank you that we are able to do this. And these people, they're, what am I trying to say? You know, their thing has been revitalized and we get to utilize it and be thankful for that.
yeah. And there's so many different things that come up with that because, and the point of the yoga is yes, it's great exercise, it's great stretching. It feels really good for the body. But then
Mhm,
that's the other thing. If we consider ourselves from the spirituality point of view, if we consider ourselves spiritual beings, then
mhm,
this human form is our vehicle.
yeah.
We are so used to seeing the body for something else than actually understanding that this is the temple of God,
Mhm,
because my
mhm,
body is my temple for my spirit and my spirit is a part of God. So
yeah.
that whole, right, but that whole, a lot of people who teach yoga, I have one sister, she'll probably never see this anyways, but I have one sister who, she knows that I used to do yoga and I used to do the whole thing. And she was like, no, 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 I can't do that because that's like, you know, you're worshiping the other gods. And I was like, okay, whatever. I never said anything. But then when one of her doctors told her, you should go do stretching and you should do yoga, she absolutely loves it to pieces. But when you ask her about it, she's like, oh no, it's just exercise. So
Yeah.
I let her because I am not, and I went through a period of trying to convince people that what I was saying was correct. I
Mhm,
have learned my lesson, as in, I am not here to convert. I'm not here to preach out. I'm here to share what you said at some point. I don't know
mhm,
if it was off camera or now. We're here to share what we've learned for other people like us that are seeking,
yeah.
because it's a matter of, if you're curious enough, there's something that's calling you. But I'm not here to
Yeah.
convince anybody, family included. Everybody is on their own ascension path. Everyone is on
Mhm.
their own spiritual path. Everybody's on their own personal growth path. Maybe it's not meant for them in this lifetime to understand all of this, and maybe they came to be devoted blank religion followers, and that's perfect for them.
There's a lot you can learn. There's a lot of great lessons in religion. And if you had no structure and you had no community, it's a great place for that.
Right.
It's when it shifts and the expectations placed upon you outweigh what you get out of it. And I think a lot of people find themselves disgruntled and they're trying to fit in and they're trying to do all these things. There's some that are really beautiful and very open and accepting. And Thank God for those, but a lot of us are suffering from um, programming and church traumas. It's in our genetics, it's in our DNA.
Right.
And as these events are unfolding in our now moment, it's triggering those. And we're waking up and going, wait a minute, I don't have to live this way. I don't have to think this way. I don't have to stay in the lines.
Right.
I can explore and it's okay and I'm safe to do
Right.
so now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny. I got a message from a client this morning saying, I am breaking all the rules. And I laughed and I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, don't worry about it. I know my spirit just feels good. And I laughed. I'm like, perfect. Then break them. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to, this is the way this is done. This is the way, religion aside, everything aside, we've been told what to do because we live in a system. We live in a, social thing that everybody needs to be to a certain degree. Okay, fine. I mean, okay. But then
Yeah.
when it stops our spirituality, when it stops our own process and personal growth, when we have questions that aren't being answered somewhere, or we just feel iffy, or no, I don't want to say
Mhm.
gross, but we feel like, yeah, that doesn't go with me, but I don't know what. That's where spirituality comes in and says, okay, this is what you're missing. Start. And it's a feeling. And I think, how would you explain spirituality to somebody?
I would explain it. Yeah, I would speak in terms of feelings. I really would. Because we are very emotional beings and we don't understand actually why we have emotions. And that's usually a great place to start talking to somebody about exploring because sadness and fear and joy, those are great ways to like have that internal barometer to check in. And spirituality is this melding together of body, mind, and spirit. We have symptoms, we exhibit these symptoms. The doctor might prescribe pill or exercise or surgery, and it's very external, but we're forgetting the whole human in that. And
Right.
sometimes it's a spirit issue
Right.
that's manifesting as a physical symptom. And so when you address it from both ends, then you find the true harmony. And so feelings are a really great one, emotions are a really great one. They are actually to inform us. They're bits of information like energy frequencies that notify us.
I think I lost you. Are you there?
Okay.
Okay, so we had a temporary technical glitch, but okay, we're back.
We're back. I think I was getting somewhere good because it totally booted me off. I was
Okay.
going to just say, in a nutshell, spirituality is the melding and creating a whole body. I was talking about the physical body, the emotional body, mental body, spiritual body. We think of ourselves as all these separate things, and
Mhm.
it's bringing it all together into one space. And I think that touches on when people speak about our multidimensionality.
Mhm.
It's a great starting point to understand the whole person,
Right.
not all these fragments.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think, okay, so for people listening to the video who are brand new to spirituality,
Mhm.
they have probably, because the majority of the people by now have heard of what they considered new age, very
Mhm.
nicely termed. Now it's called holistic. Other people call it alternative medicine. But the truth is, for thousands of years, the medicine that was actual medicine is what we consider that, by the name. But that's exactly how they cured people. Because so I studied alternative medicine and complementary things. In a nutshell, it's exactly what you're saying. It's not only looking at things from a different, okay, hold on. Let me explain it in a different way. We've been trained in Western society to believe in medicine, pills, etc. Okay. but that's only affecting the symptom that the person is coming in with.
Right.
The older medicine, which is the actual one that looks at you as a whole person, mind, body, spirit, everything, they look at it from where is this coming from that developed that symptom that you saw it at your physical level. That is why healing to that kind of healing it actually works, because it's not a band-aid.
Right. Right. And that's actually scary in a sense to actually.
Okay, so we're obviously having some kind of technical issue, but that's life, right? Things come up. This is a talk show. We'll go with the flow. Let's just go ahead and wrap it up before I lose you again.
Awesome. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So let's wrap it up. So for people who are still with us and are interested in, and they came up to, they're in this debate, let's call it that way, between religion and spirituality. Is it good? Is it bad? Where do I go? How do I define it? What would be your best suggestion for them?
I would say just be open and just feel it out. Listen with an open ear. You don't have to agree with everything. You don't have to agree with anything, but just think about it and just see how it feels. And maybe be an experimenter, be a scientist, test it, and then see what happens.
That's beautiful. And I think that could be the most basic and honest to God truth that there is. There is so much that encompasses, if that's how you say it, spirituality. There are things that are going to go with you and there are things that are not. We are all individual, like you said at the very beginning. We're all very individual and unique. We all have our life. We all have our experience, our expectations of what we think this is or what this isn't. But spirituality allows that freedom. And if it's calling them, then yeah, I think that becoming a scientist, it would be a beautiful way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And look at everything. See what everyone's saying. You don't have to agree with everyone, but it is good to know just what's going on.
Right. There has to be something if everyone keeps talking about it. Just find out what it is for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So before I lose you, if people are more interested in getting in touch with you, how do they reach out to you?
Some of the ways to find me is on Facebook, Layne Mills. You can find I have a public profile, and you can just find me. You can see what I've been talking about, and you can contact me there. I do have a website in the making, so if you want to follow me on Facebook, you'll see when the website goes live, and lots of good things are coming out. So I'm excited.
Okay, awesome. So with the audio did cut off a little bit, but either way, I'm going to put your information down below in the comments and the description. So it'll be there. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Angie. I love talking to you. So I can't wait to keep talking more.
We're definitely going to make more. There's so many topics. Like we just noticed that there's so many topics we can talk about in very different ways and very different forms, because everything kind of intermingles towards the number one goal. And I think in my eyes, the goal is just freedom to express yourself, however it comes about.
Yeah. And I love everyone's perspectives. And as you can see, this one topic can go in a million directions.
Right.
So it's just so much fun to explore.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I wish everybody an excellent day, and stay tuned to see what else and we come up with other episodes. Thanks, everyone. Bye.